Call the meeting to order at 7:04. And I guess we should do a roll call just to know who's here. Angie, why don't we start with you?
Hi, Angie DeSanto, I'm here.
Carl Falsgraf here.
See Burnham, I'm here, but I am trying to get Zoom to work on my computer rather than my cell phone, so I might sign off and be right back on.
Okay, thanks, Jesse. Garth, are you here?
I sure am. Garth Bean, present and accounted for.
All right, fantastic. And let's see, is that everybody? That's one, two. Oh, and I'm here, Charles Funk.
And Catherine's here as an ex officio member, Catherine Silversmith.
Catherine, as a curiosity, if we had, for some reason, only 3 members, would that allow you to be our 4th member to have a quorum or no?
I don't believe so. As an ex officio member, I'm a non-voting member.
Okay. All right, great. I have no communications. The next agenda item is public comments. We have a few people from the public. Does anybody want to say something? That's perfect. Approved minutes of the regular meeting Thursday, October 8th, 2020. I read through it. I didn't find anything. That doesn't mean there isn't something there, but I was pretty comfortable with it.
Move to accept Carl Falsgraf.
Do I have a second?
Who made the first?
Carl Falsgraf did, Valerie.
Okay. Oh, second, Angie DeSanto.
Okay.
No, there we are.
Any other concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Jesse?
I abstain.
All right.
I don't believe I was present at that meeting.
Yes, you were not. Okay, motion passes. Thank you. New business. We have the next agenda item is fiscal year 1920 audit report presentation from King and King Associates. We have Chris King and Sean O'Grady with us today for that presentation. So I'm going to hand it over to you.
Okay, thanks for having us. This is our 2nd year that we've completed the audit for the town. And coincidentally, it's our 2nd time presenting to you in the same calendar year. You were later in the process last year. And if I remember correctly, you were our first town Zoom meeting. So you're the first group that we've met with on Zoom twice. So you have that distinction. But the reason we're meeting twice in 1 year is the audit went pretty smooth this year. And you'll see that as we get into our section on findings or the prior year findings. There's really not much happening that we found this year. So I guess we'll get started. We do have this presentation that we threw up on the screen. I know at least one person's on the phone, so I'll try to give the play-by-play. And we can also send this to you if you want. We'll send it to the board chair and you can ask him if you want a copy of it for yourself. Normally when we meet in person, we hand them out, and sometimes people use them to take notes on as we talk. So, all right. Here we go. And so we're doing this presentation. If we need to look at the financial statements, we can also throw those up and go through them, but we'll at least go through the high level summary to start, and then see where the questions go. General fund balance of $2 million. That was a slight increase. Your general fund does consist of several sub-funds. So for example, the most prominent one is probably the education non-lapsing fund. So when you approve some of the Board of Ed surplus going to non-lapsing, it's still part of the general fund. It's just a separately stated component of the general fund. And so we have detailed statements on page 56 in the back that show the various components that roll up into the general fund. And then the capital non-recurring fund, that on a regular basis, you transfer money in. So you transferred in $216,000 from the general fund, and then 30,000 came over from the Board of Ed non-lapsing. And again, in the back on page 66, you have a schedule of all the various project authorizations and how much was added to or spent from each of these authorizations. The general layout of the audit is the further you go back in the audit, the more detail there is. You also had the final payment from Eversource. Eversource had been basically funding the lease for some equipment, some lawn mowing equipment. And so that lease was done this year. And then also in the capital, you'd see there's some other financing sources, which is debt sources, which is actually the lease for the new playground equipment of $78,000. So that's what that is. We can go to the next page. I think I'm going to have Sean take this next page. Yeah, Sean, you want to go through this part?
Everybody done? So on page 29, we have the long-term debt section, which consists of the table at the top. You can see the general obligation bond pay down. You can see your capital lease addition for the playground, and then some of your capital lease pay downs. You can see there's a large increase in the OPEB liability to a change in the assumptions of 3% to 2.02%, and an increase in the projected participation rate from 7% to 25%.
I'm just going to interject there. That's that OPEB is retiree health insurance for Board of Ed employees. And so you're required to calculate a liability. The liability is because the retirees, even though they pay all of their premiums, they're paying the same premiums as the active employees. So in your group rating, that drives up the average premium and then reduces it, results in this actuarially computed liability. So that's, I know OPEB's not a commonly used term, so I just wanted to expand on that. And that increase in participation rate, that's a big jump. That's why there's such a change in the liability calculation that the actuaries did.
Chris, is that because is that something that the state is wanting us to be aware of, or is that a liability that the town needs to be specifically aware of?
So this is not a state requirement. The calculation in the presentation is required by GASB. That's the Governmental Standards Board, but it's an individually negotiated benefit that Board of Ed retirees can stay on the plan, and whether it's Board of Ed or town or whoever does this, the fact of letting retirees pay the same rate as everybody else, I think it bumps up your experience rating and your average overall premiums. So if the Board of Ed as an employer is paying a certain percentage of its employees' premiums, it's paying an extra average premium because it allows the retirees to stay onto the plan.
Yep. Okay.
Now, we have another board that has a similar plan, except the retirees still pay 100% of their own rate, like in Ashford, but the retirees pay a higher rate. And because the retirees pay a higher rate, they don't have this liability.
I see.
That's actually rather unusual. Most towns, whether it's a town or Board of Ed side, it's a flat rate across all age groups, or active and retirees.
Yep.
Well,
Okay.
it fits, but the issue is getting the old one out.
And then next two bullets, we just have the town's portion of the state teachers retirement and teachers retirement OPEB liabilities. You can see one of them is 13 million and the other one is 2 million. On pages 56 and 57, we have the combining general fund statements, so you can see all the components that make up the general fund. That's where you'll see your annual contribution to the Babcock Library for 185,000, along with the BOE non-lapsing contribution of 20,000. The library also received a grant this year, which was passed through the Friends of Babcock Library, and they use that to purchase books, DVDs, audio tapes. And pretty similar to the same percent as last year, you have an outstanding tax receivable balance of 506,000, which is roughly 4.6% of the current levy, which is a pretty good range.
Yeah, we like to see it seems that a good range for that receivables is 2 to 8%, and you're falling right smack in the middle of it.
Good.
So now we talk about a GASB statement number 84, and what has happened is a lot of statements were, in addition to this one, there were other FASB statements. They were all delayed because of COVID. So you were going to have to implement a new standard, which would have resulted in just some change in the presentation. It's not anything you have to do internally. It's not going to create any new liabilities. But we're going to have this new category called a custodial fund. And generally, they're the student activity funds, where the town truly acts as a custodian of the funds. You know, they're just collecting them from the students and remitting them on for a field trip or a band trip or whatever. Some things are moved to the general fund, so building bonds or zoning, inland wetland bonds that used to be held in another fund. Now they're actually in the general fund. Or if they don't meet one of those two criteria, they could be moved to be a special revenue fund. So you'll see your funds change classification a little bit and move around. It's not going to be earth shattering, but it's been delayed a year because of COVID.
Yep. Okay.
So then we get in the audit, you get out of the financial audit, you get into the grant compliance audit. The state single audit is required because you have more than 300,000 of state grants, and that's very consistent. Hopefully it stays that way. You did have in the prior year deficiency that we consider material weakness. It was rather significant, and that was why we met later on in the year. We say that it's been corrected during fiscal year 2020. And then we do have our management letter, and I was going to transition back to Sean for this part of it.
Yep.
So this is where we're into our findings. All right. And last year you had big findings. This year you have what we'll call them relatively small findings.
Yep. Okay.
We'll do the prior year ones and we'll come back to the current year one. So last year we had the capital asset listing finding. It's now maintained by the town, and Cheryl, treasurer, reviews it before we get it. And then there were other three below it here. These ones were still in effect until March or April when we had our meeting last year. But after that, we can see them being corrected. So evidence of approval on invoices at the BOE, timesheets being signed off on, and the cafeteria separation of duties. And then the new software that's getting implemented in January 21, they have planned procedures to go into place when that happens. So we'll have to come back and revisit that during next year.
Yeah, good.
And then our current year findings on student activity fund. They weren't maintaining the ledger during the year. So business manager had to go back and kind of recreate it afterwards. And it took her a pretty decent amount of time and work. So our recommendation is just to maintain it like any other fund would be. And their plan is once they implement the new software, they'll track it on an ongoing basis in Infinite.
So Sean, what we would expect then next year is during your audit, you would come back to us and you're basically going to confirm that what they say they're going to do was actually done again. Was done the way you had hoped it would be done. One way or the other, whatever your finding is, you will review this again.
Yep. Yeah, and we'll go through all the control processes and make sure they come over effectively to the new software.
Yep. Okay. Good.
Yeah, so we're in the 19 year. We had our material weakness covered. Let's just say the Board of Ed accounting in general. So
Yep.
a rather large area. And as Sean mentioned, you can see the change in the accounting records. The years going along, and then once the changes and procedures were made, you can see a whole different approach. It's very cut and dry. Like you can pick a day and see the difference. And as opposed to the whole, let's say the Board of Ed area now we're really just focused on one account that we're reporting on. So it's a much smaller area that we're focusing on. Student activity funds, we talked about it being custodial fund going forward. It's just when a school district has a fraud, so many times it's in the student activities fund because it consists of small amounts of cash and someone's skimming off the top. So certainly we're not saying that's happened. We didn't see that happening in Ashford, but it's just you really need to get the controls over that, even though it's a small account, because that is a common target.
Yeah. Okay. Very good.
And that brings us to the end. So like I said, we didn't go through the entire 70 pages or so of the audit. We can, if there's areas you want to talk about. I know we hit it at a high summary level.
Does anybody on the board at this point want any more detail or a different depth on anything in particular? And if so, obviously speak up. And the other thing I would say is when we move to accept the audit report, we will be getting hard copies of this. And I think if there's any questions after we've read the hard copies, we can certainly go back to Chris or Sean, and we could get any answers that we may be looking for. Jesse or Carl or Angie, Garth, any of you have any further questions?
Not I.
Yeah, no questions at this time.
No,
Okay. Chris and Sean, I know it's brief. I think doing this on a Zoom meeting type of format is left a lot of us a little shy. So I think probably what we'll end up doing is reading the report and maybe following up with just a phone call for a few details that maybe we're looking for.
Yeah, I've noticed that these board presentations, reviewing the draft, they're going a lot faster on Zoom,
Yep.
as opposed to sometimes when we're around a table, it's almost more of a workshop format.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
so that is the trend, I guess, because of using a different medium now.
So one of the things I just wanted to ask you is, it certainly sounds to me like the overall tenor of the audit this year was much smoother. Not that there weren't a couple of little bumps, but overall, as our audit firm, you're much more pleased with the reporting and how smooth it was, even given the fact that our financial office is distracted with trying to get a new financial system up and running.
Yeah, I think, for us, there were fewer, not many roadblocks along the way. I think it's you that should be pleased with the reporting of the
Yeah.
audit. But yeah, I would agree with what you're saying.
Okay, very good. Anybody have any other questions for either Chris or Sean? All right, guys, I really appreciate all the work that you've done, and I think we're gonna let you go. We're happy.
All right. Well, thanks for having us.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thanks. Yep.
Bye, guys.
All right, thanks.
The next agenda item is action to accept the audit report. And I don't know, do we have, yeah, there's Cheryl. Cheryl, we're accepting the report so that frees Sherry to submit it
Jerry?
to the state.
Oh, we'll submit it to the state. Yeah, we have to give a copy to the library and a bunch of places, the town clerk's office.
Okay.
Yeah, but yes, it signifies it's over.
Okay, so I need somebody to make a motion to accept the 1920 audit report.
So move, Carl Fallscraft.
Second, Jesse Burnham.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Thank you, everyone. The next agenda item is Selectmen's update.
Hey there. Okay,
So this is
Oh.
Catherine Silversmith.
thank you. A couple things. The capital, we are reinstituting our capital projects review committee. And I need a Board of Finance member and a second for that member. So we have a backup. We're doing that with all of the various boards. So I don't know if you already have somebody in mind or somebody's. But that would, so if you could mull that over and let me know, that would be good.
Catherine, is that something that we need? We don't need a motion. That can be informal, correct?
I believe so.
Okay, so I'll reach out to some folks and see what we can come up with.
Okay. Also, we're re-implementing the transfer station study committee. One change is we'll have Charlie Bussey on that committee. He is the supervisor at the transfer station. We're looking to have better control of what's coming in, who and where it's coming from. Something that may be near and dear to your heart, Chuck.
Yep.
It's my understanding we went over, we went $35,000 over last year. Part of that was due to COVID because of the 4 months of COVID in the previous fiscal year. But, our costs, it just keeps going up. And there's pretty good sense that we have some people that are dumping there that shouldn't be. So we're looking at options for that. I'm hoping that the transfer station committee can make some relatively quick decisions so that we can get something implemented there, some changes, positive changes sometime in the spring when it's easy to do it. Okay, another item is something I want to make the board aware of. And I believe you're part of the decision-making process on this one. It is our Reval contract. So bear with me while I try to clarify this. We had a contract, let me do this. We had a contract through NECOG for 2016 through 2020. That is year end 2020, which is December 31st. And that was for $58,344, which translates to $11,669 a year paid over 5 years. And in our capital budget, capital improvements plan, we had allocated $15,000 a year. So that was covered well. For 2021 through 2026, another 5 years, NECOG had put out an RFP to do the same kind of thing. And unfortunately, that RFP was not reviewed by the assessors of the towns that were involved ahead of time. What did happen was through the bidding process, they selected Vision, and it's Vision using equality software. Ashford upgraded to equality software in June. Actually, it started in April, but we were cut over to it in June. It's very good software. It integrates well, does some bridging with files and everything to make it easier. And what we did find out too, in the course of looking at what had been put together for this contract and the choice of Vision, was our assessor does not have a lot of confidence in Vision's ability to work with the equality software because they're absolutely new to it. And I guess what did happen is she found out that they were unable to put together cost models in the software. I guess it was another town that was involved. And so she wasn't very comfortable with what they have. So we looked at equality and what equality had put together for a bid. And what they had is, let me make sure I get this right. They have, hang on. Looking at the wrong thing. Here it is. For the first year, their total cost is $59,840 for the 5 years. And oh, by the way, on the Vision contract, it's the total of the $60,315 to be paid over a shortened period of 3 years, even though it's for 5 years of assessment. So the equality proposal was $59,840 to be paid over 2 years, but it still covers the 5 years. So what we looked at, and Cheryl can clarify for me, is we had $1,650 left over from something, and I cannot remember off the top of my head. And we had $15,000 allocated in the capital projects budget for the year 2021, sorry. So we have a couple of choices. We want to go with equality. We have a lot more confidence with that one. And also, equality has offered that rather than us paying the 2 payments of, bear with me, $26,995 for the first year and $32,945 for the second year, if I've got it right, yeah, they have indicated that they would accept $16,650 this year, and the remaining $10,345 for this year could be paid in the next budget year, along with the $32,945. So they've indicated that that would work for them. Or we will have to pay the amount of 26,995 in this fiscal year. Did I make sense? Enough?
Yeah, so Catherine, just as a clarification,
Yeah.
it sounds to me like sort of what we were kind of maybe hoping is that we could sort of break that into three sections where we do the 16,000 this year because we've already budgeted for it and we could find another 1,000.
Yeah.
And then our next fiscal year that we're starting to go into budget season on, that we have to have our capital group and so forth. What you're saying is they're going to demand that we pay basically the balance that we
Yes.
have to allocate for next fiscal year, the one that we're going into budget season on, the
Yeah.
entire, what sounds like about
43,290.
yeah. Is there any way, and I don't know if you asked this, whether we could do the 16 now, the 10 for next fiscal year, and then the balance the third year? There's no way.
No.
Okay.
I thought they were pretty good in what they did off.
Yeah. Okay. Is this something that the selectmen have discussed together?
Yes, we have. Actually, I think that the preference, and I know Bill's on here too. I believe he's still on here.
Yep.
I am.
Our preference would be to go ahead and pay the 26,995 this year. A little bit of let the chips fall where it may in terms of what actually gets spent out of our capital budget. I hate to call it a budget, but capital plan for this year.
Yeah.
And then have the overage dealt with at the end of the year. Is that correct, Bill?
Yes, and that's my preference to do it that way. I think, giving you folks, the Board of Finance, a heads up that we're going to be short on that line item.
Right.
And then when we do our end of the year adjustments, we can make recommendations for you on that part. I'd prefer to either to pay it in total or to pay the bulk of it this year so we don't pass on any potential impact on the mill rate next year.
Well, actually, this doesn't affect the mill rate because this is really, this is capital projects. So it's not part of the mill rate. However, I wouldn't want to have that 10,345 hanging out there as, a promised amount in the next year, considering what's going on with everything these days.
I just think whether it has a direct impact on the mill rate or not, it's going to limit some of the cash flow that we may have to be using next year that's anticipated right now.
Yep. I agree with you, Bill. Yep. So basically, Catherine, what you need then is for our board to make a motion to fund 26,000 whatever out of the capital budget for
No.
this new contract.
Let me ask, I don't think so either, but let me ask Cheryl,
No,
because I don't think we need to do that.
no, you're better off just to wait until the end of the year. And they're making you aware of it right now so that you know what's coming. And then at the end of the year, make your adjustment out of CNR.
So at the end of the fiscal year, you mean?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
So what we're,
Chuck,
I'm sorry.
I just think as an informational basis, Catherine's informing you of our intent. And then when we do our end of the year adjustments, if you need any particular motions or whatever, that would be made at that time.
And in
Okay.
terms of intent, informing you of our intent is really, I want to make sure that what we're doing is with your full understanding and that you are in agreement, that would be a good way to handle it.
Yeah, so I think what we're saying then, I'm sorry, Bill. I think what you're saying then is that you're going to go ahead and sign this contract. And then come the end of the year, we've already allocated roughly 16,000 that we know of, and we're going to have to find an additional 10.
I would assume it would come from CNR.
Okay. Carl, are you understanding that?
Yep,
You're okay?
I'm okay. I think
Garth?
that's the way to do it.
Yep.
Could I ask a question?
Go ahead, Valerie.
Could you tell me, you mentioned the Vision. Now, Vision is a software?
It's a company
Okay,
and they had software, and Cheryl can help me with this, but if I understand correctly, we had an option earlier this year of upgrading to Vision .8. We were on Vision software, and we instead elected to go with Equality software because it was better.
okay. Now, just one other question. Is this software that the Board of Selectmen use or the town uses, or
Just the
Yes, it's used for reval,
what is Reval?
revaluation of properties.
Oh, okay, okay. That's what I,
Yo, so this is for the tax assessor, Valerie.
okay,
Actually, it's for the assessor and the tax collector.
okay.
And if you-
Angie, do you have
if
any
you-
questions?
If you like, Chuck, I can forward you a little summary that you can attach to your minutes if that's helpful.
That'd be great. Thank you. And I'll forward that to Valerie.
Very good.
All right, good.
I think that's all we have from the.
I have something.
Okay, go ahead, Angie.
Yeah, at last meeting or a couple of meetings ago. Yeah,
Okay, so one of the questions you asked at the last meeting was, what do we get from Ashford for allowing them to park on our property? What we do get is they go out and they do some of our tree cutting for us.
okay,
Our public works foreman works with them. And in fact, a couple of weeks ago on a Thursday, that's what they were doing, was going out and taking care of some things that we would have had to have taken care of.
good.
Okay.
Fantastic, great. Thank you for the follow-up, and Angie, thanks for remembering.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, no.
Catherine, thank you very much. Bill, thank you for keeping us up to date. That's fantastic. I think it's all good.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Next agenda item, fiscal year 21-22 budget calendar. I don't know if you guys looked it over, but I worked with both Cheryl and Christine Abakoff, and we wrestled with this thing, quite a bit, but we did finally land on this. One of the things that you'll notice is that we did not, we were unable to pair the Region 19 referendum with our referendum. And it's just the way it is. But otherwise, I think we've given the school a little bit more time to respond. And I think this is a pretty good budget calendar. Anybody have any questions or concerns?
My only question is that I would like us to have a hard copy in hand before the Board of Ed presentation.
Yep, you're absolutely right, Carl. You know, and I had meant to put that in this calendar. And in the calendar, it does say that the BOE provides a hard copy of the proposed budget to the Board of Finance on February 18th. And then on February 25th, the Board of Ed presents to the Board of Finance. So
All right.
we did try to address that in this. We will see what the reality is. I think from what I'm hearing through the Board of Ed at this point, it sounds like things are fairly organized, and I have gotten no indication that this is a burden on them to do. So I think we'll be okay. So I need somebody to make a motion to accept this calendar.
So move, Carl Falsgraf.
I need a second.
Second, Jesse Burnham.
Any other questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained? Jane, did you have a question?
I did, but it had nothing to do with the vote. Could you just repeat those dates? I was trying to see in the agenda where the schedule was laid out and I didn't see it. So it's the 18th, the Board of Finance gets a hard copy, and the 21st is the presentation. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's so Thursday, February 18th. The Board of Ed provides a hard copy to the Board of Finance. And then on Thursday, February 25th, Ashford school budget is presented to the Board of Finance by the
Okay.
Board of Ed.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
And Jane, if you go to the town website under agendas and minutes, there's a link to all of the documents that the Board of Finance is referring to tonight.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and actually that's good. I want to say that to everybody at this meeting. All the material that we're dealing with tonight is on the website for our meeting supplies. So what I'm hoping is that this starts to be a place that our board members can go, and I'm not necessarily obligated to send out information the way I have been, so that we can use that as a place to grab that information. Catherine?
I just wanted to say, I think that's a terrific idea because then everybody gets to see it. It's not just your board members.
Absolutely.
I do have a question. On the things that are out there, there is, I just want to make sure I've got this right. Bear with me. There's, for this particular thing with the budget calendar, it says proposed adjusted budget calendar. Is that the document we're talking about? Because when I look at that, I don't see maybe I'm doing it wrong, but I don't see information before April 7th.
Does it look like that?
Hang on, I'm coming back to you. Look like what? Hang on.
It should say budget calendar fiscal year end 22 proposed.
It says Ashford Town Budget Calendar revised 4/14/20 fiscal year 20 through 2/21, and it starts with Tuesday, April 7th.
I think you might have ended up in the documents area instead. This is in agendas and minutes.
Give me a second, just to confirm where I am. And I was in budget. Oh, you know what? You're right.
Yeah, there
Thank
should
you.
be 6 items there. One of them's this. And it's going to take people a little while to get used to finding it. But once you are, I think it's going to be pretty useful.
I think it's terrific. Thanks.
Did we vote on the calendar yet? No.
No.
Any other questions? Yeah, we did vote on it.
We did vote
Yeah,
on
we
it.
did.
I
Yeah,
did?
we did. And we approved it. All right.
Sorry. And the budget? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, that was the meeting schedule.
Yeah, so that was the budget calendar review, and Carl made the motion and Jesse seconded, and so this is the budget calendar that we just approved unanimously.
So we don't have to approve the meeting schedule list.
We have not gotten to that agenda item. That's the next one.
Oh, okay.
So moving on to the next one, it's the 2021 Board of Finance meeting calendar. So we can have a quick review of that. Basically, it's a whole bunch of dates, sort of like we always do, 2nd and 4th, a bunch of them during budget season, and one in December. Otherwise, it's pretty normal. Anybody have any questions? I need somebody to make a motion to accept.
I make a motion to accept Angie DeSanto.
Jesse Burnham, second.
Jesse, thank you. Any other discussion?
If I could just say something.
Sure.
Just checking. What this says is all meetings are held in the lower level meeting room, 104,
Yep.
unless noted otherwise. So that
Right.
means, does that mean that if you hold any one of these meetings, then would be considered a special meeting if you do not, if you hold it through Zoom?
I don't think so. I think that's the noted otherwise. You have to go to the agenda and that's what it is. I mean, we could change the language on that.
Just a thing I
Yeah.
happen to observe, that's all. It's up to you what you do.
Cheryl, what do you think?
I'm muted. Oh, no, I'm not. Phew. Good thing I didn't say anything bad. I agree with Catherine. We should probably add that, Chuck.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll approve this. And then we'll make that change and I'll file it again with Sherry. Because I filed it with Sherry, but pending approval.
So could you clarify what you're going to be changing up there on the?
Yeah, so at the top it says, all meetings are held at 7 p.m. in the lower level meeting room. What we're gonna do is we'll come up with language that says something along the lines of, all meetings will be held at 7 o'clock via Zoom or some sort of, meeting platform.
Okay.
So I'll talk to Cheryl tomorrow and we'll pin down that language. I'll make a change to that and I'll submit it again to Sherry.
You haven't voted yet.
Right. So any other discussion? All in favor with me making the changes we just discussed to accept the meeting calendar?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Thank you. Motion passes. The fiscal year, next agenda item, fiscal year 18-19 town annual report update. Jesse, I know you've been working on this, and I think we're getting closer, and I wanted to just sort of see where your thinking is and where we're at.
All right, so I've got, at this time, I think it complete or in draft form. I emailed it just minutes before the meeting started, so hopefully Cheryl and Laura and yourself can take a look at it. And I'm not sure if probably would be Cheryl or Laura to actually send it to a printer. So I don't know if it'd be too complex having me being not a town employee trying to do that. But other than that, I think should be good to go.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Jesse. So Cheryl, how would that work? So we can have a digital copy that's basically what Jesse's provided, correct?
I haven't seen it.
Okay, so we'll look it over.
Yeah.
And then if we wanted it published, then is that something we would send to, let's say we wanted 10 copies or something, we would send that to All Things Printed or something?
I think last year we sent it to Chase in Putnam.
Okay.
It's easier for us to access it when it's ready. But I'll have to ask Laura. She's out tomorrow, but I'll ask her next week.
Okay, good. All right. That's fantastic. It's great news and, I get it. Jesse, thank you very much for keeping on this and, keeping it rolling. And so what we'll do, Jesse, I'll get back to you as soon as I hear from Laura and Cheryl, kind of, what they're thinking, and I'll take a look at it as well, and we'll give you some feedback, and hopefully it's just ready to roll. That would be great.
Great.
All right. Thank you. So now that we have that one done, guess what? Next agenda item. Now we have the 1920 town annual report to do.
The request went out with the budget requests.
Yep. So Jesse, what's your feeling on this? Is this something that you would be willing to tackle one more year? If not, just say so, because I know I've tortured you 2 years in a row, I think, with this.
Yeah, I honestly don't mind it. I'm fine with doing it another year.
Okay. Now, is there anybody that's dying to do the annual report that really would like to take it over? Wow, there's a lot of crickets. All right. Jesse, thank you very much. I know it's a little bit to deal with. So our entire board certainly appreciates your willingness to deal with this. And I don't think we have to do any motions or anything. That's just board business. Next agenda item is fiscal year 2021 expenditure and revenue report. Does anybody have any questions? And I guess what I would start with is I would like to ask Cheryl, because I always ask Cheryl and put her on the spot. Is there anything that you see that we should be paying attention to? Anything that you're concerned about, either on the revenue side or the expenditure side?
Excuse me, on the expenditure side, again, the transfer station may be close, but the only thing I know, well, I'm pretty sure is going to go over. I don't know that for sure, but elections, they'll have a special election and another referendum that they did not budget for. So they will probably go over with those two. But there is some money from the state that will be applied to their expenditures to offset their expenditures. There's about $5,000 that between the town clerk's office and the registrars that haven't been applied yet. They're waiting to see where they want to apply them. So right now they're showing up as a revenue in intergovernmental revenue.
And am I right in assuming that each referendum roughly is about $3 grand?
Yes.
So that 5,000 would cover about a referendum and a half.
Yes, but they spent more I believe in the presidential election than they had anticipated because of all the extra people they had to have.
Yep.
So not really sure where that stands. Also in the revenues, although we did not receive any FEMA funds, we did receive about $37,000 in coronavirus relief funds from the state, from OPM. 10,000 of it was the towns and 27,000 of it was the Board of Eds. These were for expenditures prior to June 30th, anything invoiced prior to June 30th. But because we received the funds so late in the game and we had no way of knowing we'd receive any of them, we are just applying them. I asked the auditors and we were applying them to this year's budget and offsetting coronavirus related expenditures in the current fiscal year.
Could you give just a couple brief examples of what is being considered a coronavirus expense?
For us, it was a computer that we needed for someone to work from home. We purchased more than one computer, but we managed to move computers around so that desktops that needed to be replaced, the tax collector and the town clerk both had new desktops. So we switched out their desktops for laptops and moved the desktops to other areas where they were scheduled to be replaced. So we didn't actually spend more in that area. So we had one laptop, a couple of monitors, all of the cleaning supplies and the initial cleaning from the company that does our janitorial services, sanitizing wipes and all the hand sanitizer. Those were examples for the town. On the Board of Ed side, they also had cleaning supplies and that, but their biggest expenditure was food because they were feeding all of the kids.
Oh, wow. Huh. I didn't know that. That's interesting. Yep. Yep. That's great. Good.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. They're actually getting a lot of grant funds for food and other things. So it's helping.
Good. Oh, that's good news. Yep.
Yeah. And tax.
Chuck, I got a quick question. Cheryl, do the costs that we're incurring for the Zoom meetings, are they eligible for reimbursement under the COVID?
They were eligible as from CRF, but not from FEMA.
Okay.
Nothing we did was eligible for FEMA reimbursement, but all of our requests were eligible for CRF in that round. That was through June 30th. The next round will be July 1st through December 31st for CRF funds, but we have to go through the FEMA round first before we can apply.
Okay. Good.
Thank you.
And also tax collections are off a little bit. Oh, I have a note somewhere. Huh. I was so prepared. Yeah, I think last year we were at 58% collected, and this year we're at 57%. So it's pretty close.
Yep. But that's a little bit of a concern.
It is, but here it is. Yeah, 58 and 57. It is a bit of a concern, but there are notices to go out that haven't gone out yet or have just gone out. So usually there's some activity after that.
Great. I did have one question. I always like to try to put you on the spot at least once, and you can yell at me later.
You know how terrified I am.
On page 8 of the expenditures, this is just because I'm not understanding something.
Okay.
It's in the first, it's the 1010 44,000, so it's the 59242, so it's the VHHCSC, formerly VNA East.
Mhm.
What I wasn't sure of is how we have 1,000 during current expenditure, which looks like it's an addition.
It's an encumbrance issue, and I'll have to deal with that. I did not see that. Oh, I know. It was, okay, it's not an encumbrance issue. That is because we paid them for last year, and then they said, well, wait, because of Corona, they come to the senior center and they do blood pressures and for their fare. And they said they couldn't come because of coronavirus, so they returned the funds to us. So somehow that's.
Okay, that was sort of actually what I was kind of guessing. So I'm actually sort of pleased with that answer. Yeah, good. It was just a detail. I didn't quite understand why it was notated that way, and that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Good. Those were the only questions, I had. Does anybody else have an expenditure or revenue question? If not, the next agenda item is agenda items for the next meeting. I don't have any yet, so we'll invent some when we get there.
I'd like to know why the Board of Ed, we either gave them more money than they were claiming we gave them, or they overlooked getting some free computer money from the state. According to the Willimantic Chronicle, we were the only town in our area that didn't get any free computers.
Yeah, actually, we do have a couple of Board of Ed members here, Carl, and we can certainly ask. And I don't know if either Jane or Tess, you guys, can speak to that. And I know exactly what Carl's talking about. The Chronicle published an article, I don't know, 4 or 5 days ago, that indicated all the area towns that got some laptop computers to help this, that, and the other. And what was suspiciously, unfortunately, missing from that article was any indication that Ashford had benefited. Do you guys have any knowledge of that?
Unfortunately, I think Tess is gone. Oh no, Tess is still here. Okay,
Yeah.
good. I see you, Tess. I don't know anything about it. We've been told that the school has been applying for every grant and everything they can. So I haven't heard about that, and I will certainly ask some questions. Thank you.
Yeah, so one of the thoughts I had on that, Jane, was what the article noted was Chromebooks. And if it's my understanding that you guys have basically committed to Apple. I don't know, are you still using Chromebooks for anything?
No, so we do not use Chromebooks, and the reason we don't use Chromebooks is that our technology consultant does not feel that they hold up well enough. So our students actually take their one-on-one computers home with them on a daily basis, especially normally that happens in 7th and 8th grade. We don't normally have the younger kids who 6th grade is the first year you get a one-on-one computer. We normally don't have them bring their computers home with them, but I believe they are all bringing their computers home with them nightly now, in case school does have to close unexpectedly. So Scott Waddell, who's our computer consultant, several years back and has stuck with the recommendation that we not use Chromebooks because they are, when you spend $150 to $200 on a computer versus $400 on a computer, you hope you're getting a better product. And his feeling is that we are, and the reason we are is that the Apples hold up much better and can deal with a little bit more beating around and banging that they get from students.
So my guess is, Carl, and I'm just guessing, is that the state was handing out Chromebooks and Ashford doesn't apply for them. And that's just me guessing, but I think,
Right.
Tess and Jane will probably speak to their group, and that I'm sure they'll get back to us with a confirmation of what their strategy is.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Next agenda item is remarks for the good of the board. I just want to say you're all awesome, and I'm glad you're all here. I really appreciate everyone that's here. Jane?
I don't know if I'm allowed to talk during this part, but I just want to say I am so impressed by how quickly and efficiently your meetings run, and I'm jealous.
Well, that's a testament to all these people too. So very, very good. Thank you. And Carl, this is the part we really need you.
All right, move to adjourn.
Thank you. We have a second?
Sure, Jesse Burnham, second.
All right. Thank you, Jesse. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. Thank you, everyone.
Good night,
night.
folks. Stay safe.
Good night.